What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Custom. I'm Carl Fisher, and today we are going to get back into something that we used to do a little more of on the channel, and that's make simple tools with simple tools. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make our own shrinking machine for edges of flanges. You've definitely seen shrinkers and stretchers before, but other than a shrinker stretcher that you go out and buy, what's another way that you could do that? I've got a simple tool you'll be able to make with a grinder and a drill. We're gonna make that today, right now. So don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is something I have not made before. I've seen sort of renditions, like hobbled together renditions of this. So Elio and I just kind of had a chat this morning, and we were talking about how we could make this tool as simple as possible, like least amount of steps, stuff that you should be able to find in your scrap bin, no matter what your scrap bin looks like. And you can get creative here and make it with whatever you have laying around. So this is gonna be a free tool, okay? This is just junk from the scrap bin. So Elio and I kind of sketched out a little bit of what this tool is gonna be. And basically, it's going to be some kind of crimping tool that has, you know, a top jaw and two bottom jaws that's gonna make a crinkle in metal. And what is a crinkle? A crinkle is basically a tuck. You see me use the Mother Tucker hammer and we pop tucks into pieces of metal and force them together. That is what shrinks are. So on a smaller scale, you may have seen this in HVAC equipment. There are pliers that do this that are kind of made for very thin material, HVAC, like 22, 24, 26 gauge sheet metal. That is something that's common, like fitting ducting together, and you see the crinkles on the edge. We're basically gonna make a tool that does that, but it will do it on a little bit thicker sheet metal so that we can make curved flanges on whatever panels we're doing. So you're gonna use this on all kinds of different rust repair panels. Like if you're making any panel, likely it has a turned flange that has some kind of a shape. This tool will allow you to shrink that edge, and we'll show you a technique to do this completely by hand. No need for any special equipment. So I think the first thing what we're gonna do right now is we are going to use this angle iron. This is just, 1/4 inch thick angle iron by 1 inch. And I've got, I believe this is 1.25 inch by 1/4 inch flat bar. And so I'm gonna make the center tooth of this rig that is the handle as well out of this flat bar. And then the two bottom pieces will be made out of this angle iron. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of get started on it. And this could change as it goes, and I don't know that this is the perfect thickness or whatever. So we're gonna kind of build this tool. We're gonna have a look at it, talk about it, try it out, see if there's any improvements that we could make, and perhaps make a second rendition of it as well. I know this is only half the equation. When you shrink things, you also want to be able to stretch them. So a flange that turns one way could need to be stretched versus shrunk the other way. So in the next video that you see from Make It Custom, we're gonna build something I've never seen before, but what I think could be very useful as a linear stretch tool specifically for doing flanges, like this is a specific shrinking tool for flanges. So I'm gonna cut some of these pieces up. We're gonna throw it on the time lapse just to cut a few things up and drill a few things, and we're gonna come back and talk about how we're gonna make this tool work. Here. So right now, I'm cutting this down so that the jaw of these, like this is our lower jaw, pretend there's gonna be a 1/4 inch gap in between this. I want the scissor action of this tool to be in line with the pivot point of the lever so that it's equally crushing our wrinkles in. So That's why I drop this down, is so that I can actually drill a hole in line with the center of our lower jaw. It'll make sense in a second. So I'd say when it's at 90, we would want that to be a closed, like the deepest it can go. Yeah. Because a lot of panels are, 90-degree flanges on it, right? So let's mark where that is. So the depth of something like this, if it's a 1/4 inch,
I go down 1/8 inch?
yeah, I'd say, right? 1/8 of an inch, so that's only about like that. So that's when it's closed. Okay, well, we'll start with that.
Or why don't we
Or maybe we
start
start with like a little bit bigger, actually.
Yeah.
Let's start with a little bit bigger and do our grind. Now, something I'm going to do with the grind on this is I'm going to actually grind this is going to be a peak here. I'm going to grind that to a peak. And I'm going to grind this to a peak, so that when the jaws close, it creates this tuck style zigzag wrinkle. But I also want, or I think that I want this to taper, so the peak of this wrinkle, I think, should get tighter.
Yeah, because along the edge, it should be a tighter tuck than in the,
right,
deeper in the sheet metal. Because
yeah, but actually I'm backwards here, because if you're putting a flange in, then that edge has to be deeper, and this edge we would actually, so excuse this, this is
you want
wrong.
this tighter and this wider.
I want these to be like that, and cutting that off. But this peak of the edge can actually get wider. Like the grind can get wider, so that it's tapered, right?
Yeah, so then you have a V formation.
Exactly. So that means that this edge has to be the deep edge in there, right? Yeah. So that edge has to be the deep edge. So this will actually be, oh, this is kind of weird. Yeah, you don't want this edge crimping nearly as much, or almost none here, and all of it to be here.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
All the crimp has to be on this side, so it's backwards from the way my brain was originally thinking about it.
So it might just work naturally with a flat piece. Like the edge being flat like it is.
Stick your flange in here.
Yeah, like if the bottom's flat right now, because then this is naturally deeper than out here.
Yeah, it has to go like from that up to like this. Has to be on like that kind of angle. And cut this off.
Yeah, the exact opposite
So
of
that
what
it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that works. That works the same way. It's just a bit
backwards
of
a little
it's,
bit.
yeah, it's a bit of a
This
break.
is going to be not harder, but different to do than it's just the opposite.
Yeah, I'm gonna start by cutting that off and then giving this a bit of a grind. Okay, so the first grind around, this is what we've got. I think we should give it a shot first. I do now think that it's a little bit too aggressive. Like it looks like it's going to be a lot, but we should just give it a try and just see what it actually is, and see what kind of pattern or what kind of shrink we get out of a flange with what we've got. But I think to me it looks pretty big. Like I think we should be able to make smaller ones, you know, to get like a really tight radius. But what do I know? We've never done this before, so I think what I'll do is I guess I could probably just should I just clamp this to the bench? Okay, so can't let my coffee get cold. This is test number 1. We've got probably a 3/4 inch flange on an 1.5 or 2 inches, 18 gauge sheet metal, and we're just gonna give it a shot and see what happens when we use our little tool. Well, we're kind of running into right here, but that's actually kind of sweet.
It's sweet.
It actually works pretty good. Like you can see the curve that we're getting, like up here. Well, I think it actually works upside down too.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah, it totally works upside down.
And then you can see that this tooth guides the other one, so you always have an equal placement. Look at that.
And you can kind of chomp in if you want to go a little more. I'm actually kind of happy with the, well, we're going to have to see. What do you do next? Like now we've got all these wrinkles in here, now what? What's a simple way to actually hammer those out? I'm going to show you. So what we can do is if we go to a dolly right now, oops, form.
How much that's moved.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. So we could just start hammering this down. I'm gonna throw earplugs in. Elio, you got earplugs?
Yeah.
So in order to hammer these out, if we were to just hammer these back out, it's gonna basically just try and push itself back out. So if you've seen some of the other videos, you would have to close the tuck in this situation to hammer this back out. Or there's another cheat. The other cheat is that you use a piece of flat bar and you actually clamp a piece of flat bar between two areas and then hammer them out. So you're actually holding the flange in the shape, which will do the same as what you're doing closing a tuck. It's locking that shape in so that you can hammer these down and it has nowhere to go but in on itself and shrink. So that's what we're gonna give it a try right now. Let's hammer this out as I would without one. So you would start at the end and try and close the tuck to get these to lock in, but I think this is so small that it'd be quite difficult. Yeah, it does do it a little bit, so. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to hammer the end of the tuck closed, and then it's locking in this little bubble of information. With that closed and that bubble locked in, then when I hammer that out, it's gonna complete the shrink. It'll go flat and some material will push into itself and hold the shrink. But it is flattening itself out at the same time, so this is not the most efficient way to do it. So there is still a little bit of curve in here, but as you can see, most of it has kind of straightened out. So what we can do is, I'm gonna go back to this tool here and put these in again.
No, I think.
Oh, I went right on the other one, so it did rip it, but. Perhaps the dies themselves are kind of too sharp.
Yeah.
On a second pass, it's ripping it. I mean, this will still work. What we can do is actually clamp in between two ends and then hammer the rest of it out. Okay, so I just found this piece of flat bar that we had bent in a previous video. This is kind of what you need. So you could cut and weld something like this, but basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to clamp the edges .
So for here, does it matter how far apart you are on clamping, or?
I actually don't know. I've actually never done this before, so we're figuring it out. I think that this is, I think it shouldn't matter, but we're gonna find out. I'm gonna hammer these down right now. You can see where this rip has already started to happen. That's unfortunate. We're just demonstrating and trying, so it's kind of not a big deal right now, but. So using this hammer, it seems like it's allowing a little bit too much rebound. It's certainly working, but I'm just going to try with the planishing hammer. Reset this up here. Yeah, that's a lot better.
Definitely kept a lot of shape, like.
Yeah, I think it kept all the shape.
Yeah.
It had no choice but to keep that shape. So I'd say that's a successful try. One of the things that we've noticed by doing this is that it ripped that. I mean, we did do a second pass, so that's kind of, it bent it twice and ripped it, but I do think that we could definitely soften the edges of the points, just so that they're not quite as sharp. They don't dig into the material as much, but we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna try it again and just see how nice a job we can do with it. I mean, our first try, I think, was definitely successful. Like, that's a nice edge. This is a nice flange. There's really not that much marking on it, but that marking that you do see, we can make those marks hopefully disappear by working the die itself. So let's give that a shot and do it again. So I got these, this is not really a wire wheel. It's, I honestly don't even know where I got them, but this is supposed to sand. So I'm just gonna rub this all over the edges. Is that doing a good job? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit too fine. I'm gonna go to just some 80 grit maybe on the DA then. Yeah, that's probably good. So I think that this would be also better if we mounted this on something that was like, so that we don't run into this. Because right now I can't get in there, right? So if this was actually curved a little bit here so that the piece could actually not interfere with our tool itself, and then also elevated on some kind of piece of tube or something. Like, I think that this would be a great tool that you could mount on like a hitch tube and drop into a tool holder for like what we're gonna do with the Mother Tucker stuff. That's coming. You guys don't know about that yet, but we got stuff happening. Anyway, let's give this another shot.
Yeah, like leave an inch so then we can clamp it.
That's a perfect idea. Leave a little bit of an inch. Actually, I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna make little ones.
You'll definitely be able to control how much shrink you want as well, considering.
Yeah, you could just like how much we're doing. You could just creep up on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the results are pretty good on this one. It's a little bit less scratches and stuff. I think that could still be improved upon. Like if you really wanted to make this tool optimal, I think that you could have like polished tooling so that it doesn't mark. But what I'd like to see also is that since this one is a little bit shallower bend than we've got here, are we able to tighten that up again? So let's put it back in, see if we can make that a little tighter. So I'm gonna try and go
in between.
In between them, yeah, so that we're not doing the same thing.
I think this here is too sharp. Still, it's a bit too sharp because like these curves on this side, they look, I don't know what, less sharp.
Like it goes too
Like
deep.
these ones look nicer than these ones. These ones are too sharp, and these ones look like they'd allow for more, not necessarily more movement, but.
Yeah, well, you can see also that it goes in there, and then you can kind of see how the edge touches both edges there.
Yeah.
But although I don't know if I can truly fault it for that yet, because like we just like totally tightened it up. The material doesn't look like it's distressed enough to be a problem, and look at how tight a curve that is already.
Oh yeah.
Let's give this a shot. I think you're right though. Just improving the dies would be everything. Like that's our first shot, and
Yeah.
any of those improvements we've been talking about.
Like, oh, we thought of this.
Yeah, and any of the improvements we thought about, I think, would make it better, but definitely doesn't mean it's not a success already. Check that out. Like I would actually say that that's less damage to the material than a shrinker stretcher. Or like a cheap shrinker stretcher.
Yeah.
You can get non-marking dies and stipple dies, and you can get all super fancy, but
Well,
dude,
if you put that in the English wheel right now, could you wheel that? Like to
the
planish it?
the flange?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that you'd be able to wheel.
Or like, I guess, do a
That.
planishing hammer setup just to see
I mean,
how
you could
nicely we can get it.
you could put this in a planishing hammer. I mean, that's also what this is. Like, if this was perfect, like we could keep going.
So you can see here how shiny it is, and the shiny is pretty much all the same. It's hard to tell on the camera, but that's a good angle. So the shininess is kind of all the same level, and all the marks are out where you can still see the here and here. You can see the dull part. That's kind of where it hasn't been touched.
Basically, like sheet metal is so much like clay, like Ray Shalene says. Check out his channel, Pro Shaper Workshop. But because we've locked this shape in, now the metal has nowhere to go but where we tell it to by force, right? So we're just smashing, like this is a hardened hammer, something that's harder than this sheet metal. You know, this is not hardened. Somebody just made this. You don't have to have hardened stuff really, but because we are putting so much force on such a small area, this sheet metal has no option but to squish and take that shape. And because we've locked it in place here, you know, we're forcing this together, which is kind of stretching it as well, but it can't stretch in a way that opens the shape up because it's locked in. So we can just keep going and look at like this is why people polish their dies, is because you can transfer that polish onto here and literally erase marks in sheet metal by just hammering. Like, let's just take, for example, have a look from the top. Can you see this?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of
mark
trying
set
to
right
show,
here?
like where the dull parts are is kind of where you have.
Yeah, I think that like probably the footage from before did show it getting gone, but I'm just gonna erase this little spot here. A lot of this has been erased already, but watch, this little spot there, I'm just gonna hammer that. And now it's gone. It is literally polished because this material has been pushed with such force in between two polished surfaces. So I know we're getting off track with building simple tools and making a flange, but I think it's pretty cool to demonstrate how nice you can make something just totally by hand, you know? yeah, I'm surprised how well that little tool works. So I encourage you guys to build that tool and make nice, like, look at that. This is not an expensive hammer either. Like, none of my tools are expensive, okay? Like, everything's relatively cost effective. So hopefully, you know, you guys aren't afraid to give this a shot and make your own shrinking machine out of just flat bar and junk that you've got laying around. Give it a try, and yeah, let me know in the comments if you like this video, if you want to see more stuff like this. I really enjoy building tools. Elio loves doing it. It's like this problem-solving thing where we're also kind of getting a little bit of joy out of knowing that we're saving people money and ourselves as well. This tool's gonna live here and probably get used. I've got other stuff, but for certain things, I think this is the way to go. Okay, we're just not gonna just leave it right here. We're gonna finish that tool because it works so good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mount it to a little pedestal. So I just got a piece of 2-inch tube here. I'm just gonna stand it up on that so that it drops into our little dolly stand, or we can just put it into a vise. And then I'm gonna weld our little tool to it, and it'll just get used actually, rather than having to clamp it to the table every time. So,
Like, little stop right there.
ooh, that's a good idea. Maybe a little spring on it. Maybe a little spring on it so that it doesn't. I don't know. Let's Gucciify our free little tool.
Your $5 tool into $15 because metal's so expensive.
That's probably tall enough, yo. Yeah, heavy duty.
So good.
You know what? Like, speaking of the saw, like, big shout out to KBC Tools. They turned me on to this thing. They sent this out for me to try out, and I don't use other saws now. Like, that's 1/4 by 2-inch.
And look at how straight it is.
It's like,
It's
yeah,
all adjustable.
they make a mess. You know, they make a big mess, but they cut straight. And I think this saw was like $500. Like, that's pretty.
Cheaper than a bandsaw.
Dude, yeah, like that bandsaw new's probably like $2,000 or $3,000 or something. But most of the stuff I do, like, that's heavy stuff. I'm not gonna do anything heavier than that, you know? Like, okay. What I'm gonna do, use that piece of tube. I'm gonna weld this to the top of that and then give this a little bit of a grind so that we can hold the panel below or above, just maximum clearance kind of thing. Where is the left-handed adjustable? Pretty good, pretty good. This is 400, which is kind of too big of a step, but I don't have anything in between. We're going to town. Look at this. We're gonna paint this thing. Only gonna do like the top portion of it because it's gonna go in and out of that. Nice. In. Success. Okay. It's a real tool. You might actually use this thing, man. I like that. Or for just tuning something up, like, or getting there quickly. Like, I think that I think this has some advantages to a shrinker stretcher, or at least mine, because like my jaws are not that tight, so this could get into a spot that my shrinker could not.
Oh yeah, this can get into some tight spots.
So, might actually use it. That's why we're making it nice. Nice.
Where's that piece of sheet?
We have our done little piece. It's kind of half kind of polished. So now we can actually work it from this side or this side, and we've got all the clearance in the world. So I like how we've mounted it this way. It works better than it would be on the bench, right? Yeah. And I think that would be like cumbersome to try and set up each time. Like you want to be able to just grab it and go. This size tube also fits in my little thing over there that holds all the stuff. So here we go.
I think an improvement we could make on this is have a little like hook, because it seems like, oh, it kind of. Yeah, you have to go in 2 steps. You can't just.
It's kind of nice that you go in like that, though.
You can definitely control it more.
And if we did need to, this works both ways. You just go in this way the same, right?
Does it not work that way anymore?
Well, I just don't have the, like, I'd have to hold it like this and then just get in there, but. So I suppose the other thing we could do is actually cut this back and because this is an overkill handle.
Ooh, yes.
If we cut this back, we would be able to get into areas that are even tighter than 90 degrees.
Ooh, yeah.
We'd be able to like, let's do it. We're going all the way, right? Give it like something like that. Give ourselves like an extra bunch.
No, taper off back this way.
I mean, how cool are we gonna make it? Because like we could make it pretty cool if we wanted to. Oh dude, I have like the piece for this Do you remember the shifter from the diesel Model A?
Yeah.
How we like
I thought we were just gonna cut a handle on the machine.
Well, I mean, we could like make a brass knuckle handle or something. Hold on. Okay, this we're making it less and less simple as time goes on. So we're gonna cut this to make it a little better. But this handle is one that was a shifter handle on a hot rod that I built many, many years ago, and I've been packing it around forever. And we just ended up changing the handle to something different. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this back like what we just talked about and just pop 2 holes in it. And then this is gonna be our sick little handle for the shrinker. Finally, we get to use this thing I've been packing around forever. Okay, this is a little bit too wide, so we're gonna have to make the spacer smaller. Make this into 1/4 inch, right? Micrometer. Love the micrometer, man. 100% good enough territory. Have faith, Elio. Okay, now we need come on. You know how I'm always missing that one stud that threads into the table here? The one of the short ones? That's what I used it for.
It was a good idea at the time.
I'll sacrifice a stud for a table to make a cool shifter any day. Those out now. Actually, check this out. Let's go drop it in the stand and see if we can just use it. Think. We can go this way. Kind of, there we go. Gotta have a good grip on it. Look at that.
Wow.
So if you haven't seen the video, I did do a video on torches and the multiple uses of torches. And one of the things I showed on there was bending kind of the hard way on a piece of flat bar. So go check that out. All it is you just heat up the entire area and you can put it in your vise and bend it the hard way, and then just kind of while it's hot, hammer it back flat. You could make yourself a little horseshoe piece like this. This is what we're gonna use once again to hold the outside pieces locked in shape so that we can hammer this back out. So let's give that a go. Just gonna bring this to the edge a little bit here. This is a little bit sharp as well. Like I might actually kind of cut that off a little bit.
What would that do to the metal related?
Well, what you can see here is like how much sharper this corner was than my original break. If you want it to be that sharp, then yes, you can crisp up all your edges to be sharper. That's why I've only done half of it. But if I'm matching a radius that is a little bit radiused on the inside, this gets a little bit too sharp. So that's kind of cut a corner in, which at times you want that. So that's why I only did half of it. But for this to be a nice even amount of radius, it needs to have a radius on the dolly as well. Well, I think that demonstrates it quite well. Don't you?
It's no different than like a stock panel. You know how they're always crimpled, like replacement panels and stuff? Like...
Exactly, and like if you wanted to, I think some of these were a little bit
deep.
A little bit deep. Like when we did this one, we did it in 2 stages, right?
Yeah.
We did it once a little shallower and then came back to do it again. So I think maybe working it that way could produce like smoother results, but I worked a little bit hard for that, but that's quite a lot of bend with only 4 puckers, and what did it take us, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Like my arm's sore because I don't know how many we've done so far, but there's probably more, in that panel than most panels, right? But yeah. So now I think we're going to end the video here. Thanks a lot for watching Make It Kustom, everybody. I really appreciate you guys. Drop a comment. Let me know what you thought about this simple tool, if you're going to give it a shot, or if there's any changes that you might make making your own tool based on what you've seen here today. So thank you very much, everybody. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.